Prologue. V. Nothing was left in the facility. It had been raided so many times in the last few days that anything of value that could be unchained, and even most things that couldn't had been taken. Local warlords had picked over remains, and tears in the facility had left it exposed to the elements at long last. A bitter and acrid rain fell into the facility, but it, like the shelling and combat from before, failed to damage the last chamber, unopened and unused. Several attempts had been made, but none had been successful, for the same luck of the draw that kept the project linked to a lucky few had fried the now charred remnants of those desperate enough to try. And yet they tried. Somehow the fifth player had made it past the war zone in the yards, and somehow they'd managed to frantically punch in the keys that activated the already preloaded and damaged matrix of friends. Somehow, they'd managed to open and enter the capsule that was shielded from the bitter rain that sizzled as it fell, and lasted long enough to trigger the process, which seemed to be automated. But the last sight was not of the peaceful dark, but the expanding heat of an explosion, and they did not awake. On a large expanse of bright blue stones near an even brighter blue beach, a large cyclops cast his line into waters teeming with fish. He wasn't fishing for fish, of course, but simply to pass the time. The line was baited not with a hook, but with magnets to find hidden treasure, or something. He hadn't come up with the idea himself. Boleslava nuzzled against his side, deep in a content sleep that was full of good dreams and friendly faces. The weather was good, so she wasn't worried, and the sun was bright, so all was well. That was when her monocular companion let out a surprised grunt and began to reel something in, something large and waterlogged, something with enough metal in it to trigger the magnets Boleslava had painstakingly laced with water lilies and roped to the line. But Binky was quiet as it was apparent what they had found, riddled with shrapnel and so burned as to be unrecognizable. Their identity, clothes, if they'd had any, and even their gender were unidentifiable. Boleslava shuddered and closed her eyes, and Binky shed several tears before he felt the sad thoughts drift away on pink clouds. Not too long after, he'd managed to dig a deep pit, marked with a large cairn of blue stone carved imprecisely by giant hands. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. The two friends stared at the third they'd never get to know, and Binky turned to his companion.
"What do we do now?"
he asked uncertainly, voice rumbling and deep. She replied with a stare, and Binky hefted Boleslava onto his shoulder.
"You're right. Maybe other people are in danger, need some help. We should look for them."
Pausing only to lay some of the fallen water lilies at the cairn, the giant and the tiny hemispherical companion began trekking from the coast to a mountain peak in the distance, only the solemn murmur of the water behind them remaining as they disappeared against the backdrop of the night sky. Chapter end.